Good evening and welcome to the second leg of the India development debate. I'm Nayantara Rai in New Delhi. Today we saw hectic meetings in the corridors of power in national capital over rescuing Jet Airways. It's down to 26 planes in the skies, down from 119 just 4 months back. Salaries have been deferred in March. Bankers that were supposed to pick up over a 50% stake in the airline, we still don't know what the status of that is. There has been no emergency fund infusion. Pilots have been told to go on leave. Entertainment systems are not working on international flights. It is one royal saga. So after the hectic meetings held today in the Finance Ministry, in the Aviation Ministry, as well as at the regional headquarters of Jet's largest lender, SBI, there is a press release that was issued a few minutes back. In that, the lenders have announced they will be inviting expressions of interest for selling stake in Jet Airways. What's curious is the timing of the invitation for bids. It's going to open on Saturday, April the 6th, and close on April 9th, Tuesday. Such a short time to sell India's oldest private airline. Let me first go across to Ishita Guha, who's tracking this story for us, to tell us more about this press release. Ishita, I know we're still all digesting it, but I think the subtext is quite clear. There seems to be a bidder in the wings, waiting in the wings, that the lenders know about, and there will be no capital infusion at least till April 9th.
Well, as you said, that we have the outcome from the lenders meeting on Jet Airways resolution plan, but most importantly, besides the lenders announcing that they will be inviting expression of interest for Jet Airways by April 6th, and the submission has to be done by April 9, just a 3-day window for Jet Airways, and they want to sell their stakes and they have invited expression of interest for Jet Airways. Now this looks a little fishy here because a 3-day window for any airline and for such a big company which has huge debt of more than 8,000 crores looks a little fishy here, because we know that there have been cases which have got to invite expression of interest, and the entire process takes at least more than 20 days or 30 days and even 2 months in some cases that have been there under IBC. So a 3-day window here looks a really small amount of time for inviting expression of interest, especially when the case is very controversial at this moment of at this point in time. Besides that, we also know that lenders have said that they will consider other options if they do not come across good expression of interest, and if they do not. So we could have a possibility here that they already have a bidder or a buyer in place who is willing to buy their stake from the lender consortium.
Okay, Shita, thanks so much for joining us with that. So the lenders who have decided, it seems, no capital infusion till they at least try to sell Jet Airways. Expression of interest opening on Saturday, closing on Tuesday, April the 9th. I'm now going to invite my panelists. Jitendra Bhargav, the former executive director at Air India, understands aviation very, very well. Mohit Saraf, senior partner at the LNL Partners Law Firm. V.G. Kannan, the CEO of the Indian Banks Association. Raj Kamal Rao, the managing director of Rao Advisors. Mr. Kannan, I'm going to come to you first. You know, we've got you here to talk about the banking landscape, the bankers who had decided they're going to pick up over a 50% stake in India's oldest private airline, rescue it, invite bids in a time-bound manner, and have a bidder in place by 31st of May. That is what the first announcement was. It's getting, in the latest twist and turns, now they're talking about inviting bids on Saturday all the way till Tuesday. Am I right in assuming the bankers already know that there is a buyer waiting in the wings, and they think that maybe it's time to see, and first try to see if there's even a buyer before they put their own money in?
Nayantara, first you have to understand, any process of when you invite bids, you either float an RFP, or initially you float a what is called expression of interest, and then go for a detailed RFP depending on how do you want to get the bidders. Right now, I think they have some indications and must have identified about 25-30 people or whoever it is, or maybe 5 or 6, whoever it is, and sent the request to them saying that they would like to know whether they will be interested in this, and then throw open the data room to these people and specifically say what are the things they will be in a position to do it. Therefore, when you have identified people to whom the offer is being made, and saying that would you like to have show an interest in this? I think you don't need a 20-day time frame. 3 to 4 days or 1 week is also good enough. And then thereafter, depending on the kind of interest, they will take it forward. And I'm also a bit surprised that the funding has not happened. I thought the funding would have happened, because funding is essential to ensure that the company keeps running and is in a position to have more and more aircraft airborne. But right now it's 26 flights only, and they don't want to aggravate it further, and they would like to close it as early as possible. And therefore, I think the floating for the EOI starting this weekend. Hopefully, we will get some idea about it by Tuesday.
Mohit Saraf, let me come to you. You know, you are the man who tracks deals, you understand the law, transactions. You're going to have a major expression of interest, a global expression of interest that's going to open on Saturday, a holiday in India, and close on Tuesday. Would I be wrong in doing a 1 + 1 = 3, that there is already a buyer that is waiting in the wings, or a smart strategy by the bankers saying that before we pick up the equity, before we actually infuse funds in, let's see what the kind of interest that actually exists? How do you float an expression of interest in less than 48 hours and even declare a bidder in 4 days? Is it even possible?
Nayantara, no deal can be done in 3-4 days. So I think that you should understand there is a problem. But I think the bigger problem is what the Supreme Court has held with regarding the 12th February circular. Because the entire jet plan, if you see the entire conversion of 1 rupee debt into 50% equity, has its base on the 12th February circular. The entire management change was based on 12th February circular. Now, as per the Supreme Court, all actions under the 12th February circular is null and void. I think that is the reason why the meeting went off that long, because now the lenders don't even have a provision under which they can get 50% equity for 1 rupee. And therefore, this short time period has come in, because they don't want to put money, they don't want to put good money under a bad money. So they want to make sure people are interested. This is too short a term. Even on 9th, lenders will have no visibility whether anybody is coming in or not. No bidder will have a visibility that let's assume we find a bidder, they put up 3,000 crore, and what happens when Naresh Goyal goes to the court and says the entire transaction, the entire lender's recourse is null and void, because that's what the Supreme Court says. So I think this is going to be probably one of the big disaster which will happen because of the court hearing, and that's the reason lenders are not putting money. And I think it's not that somebody is sitting there and the period has been shortened to find somebody. Basically, I think the lenders are realizing that in a short time they need to put money to keep the airline in float. The Supreme Court had said that everything under 12th February circular is null and void.
I'm not sure, Mohit, the problem is, the problem with what you're saying, and I'm going to come back to you later in a bit, the problem that I have with what you're saying is the RBI governor today was quite clear about it in his press conference. The hectic meetings you saw in the national capital today at the Aviation Ministry and SBI's regional headquarters was after RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das's press conference, where he spoke about a new circular by the RBI, which is going to take care of Section 35AA of the Indian Banking Regulation, which is specifically about the CDR, the SDR, the S4A, and allowing bankers to invoke insolvency wherever needed. I'm going to come back to you on that technical point in just a bit, but if I can go to Jitendra Bhargav. Jitendra Bhargav, where do you stand on this issue? 26 planes in the skies, India's oldest private airline unable to pay salaries in the month of March as well. International flights, you don't even have entertainment systems. It's one colossal mess. There was a resolution plan that had clearly been worked out, for whichever reason is not going as per plan. It could also be because, you know, there are always conversations that happen. Maybe there is indeed a suitor that the lenders know about and have decided to go ahead with that, or just to err on the side of caution and say that let's first see what kind of interest actually exists for this airline.
See, let's take the date of Naresh Goyal stepping down from the board as the cutoff date and look at the situation thereafter. At that stage, there were 41 aircraft with Jet Airways flying, and today we are down to 26, which means the situation has only worsened. The money promised, infusion 1,500 crore, hasn't happened. Now, when I look at it, I'm not as pessimistic as my preceding two speakers, for the simple reason that I have faith in these lenders that they will take a course which is right for them as well as for Jet Airways, considering a huge chunk of money of theirs is stuck into it. So, having said this, they will be looking at it, how fast to get it. February 12th circular could be set aside. I'm not the right man to speak on the subject, but what will the lenders do? They haven't been able to find an interim chairman. If you recall, they were trying to find a management team which will look at. They haven't been able to do it. Something needs to be done. And what could be the best thing is prepone the stake sale, try and get somebody. And I recall distinctly what the SBI chairman had said on the day the resolution plan was made public, that they have been doing talks, they've been in talks with various parties prior to Naresh Goyal having stepped down. So it's possible they have identified somebody. And considering it's 6th to 9th, Saturday to Tuesday, possibly a Gulf Middle East company could be in the reckoning, because the weekend there is Thursday, Friday. So if they have to put these dates, etc., there could be a reason behind it. But I would again urgency say is in the airline industry, unlike...
You preempted me.
Nayantara, just one point. You know what we got to look at is...
You know, Jitendra Bhargav, you preempted me. Since you're talking about a Middle Eastern airline, there is an equity partner, Etihad, on board. Its stake was supposed to be reduced from about 24% to 12%. Saturday is, of course, the Monday for the Middle Eastern countries. Today, Prime Minister Narendra Modi received an award, the highest award that is possible from the UAE. It happened a couple of hours ago. You know, I can't help but saying it seems to be fitting in.
One can read too much into it. Just look at
the
urgency that needs to be brought in. The urgency is enormous. Unlike a manufacturing unit which has assets and scale, what is there for an airline? The number of flights you operate, the network you cover, the percent market share that you hold. And as it is, we have been seeing that ministry and banks do not seem to be on the same page. We heard today that Vistara was given some of the jet slot between Delhi and Bangalore. So if we are going to be eroding value of Jet Airways over a period of time, all the more reason that lenders should hasten the whole process and try and get an investor as early as possible and keep their money aside. Because there is no point in putting in money, as I said earlier on your program, that even if you put in this money, 6 months down the line, there will be a need for further infusion of funds. How can it keep going? So the best course is to find somebody who can invest money, take control of the airline. So all the other problems, the faster banks get rid of it, the better it is.
Mr. Rao, if I could bring you into this conversation, you in the past have said, you know, it's Jet's problem, Jet needs to figure it out. But Jet's problem is also its lenders' problem. Look at the kind of exposure they have. It's also election year. It's the government's problem. The 23,000 employees. Can India afford another airline to crash? So today, when you're hearing that perhaps today's press release indicates that there will be no immediate emergency capital infusion by the lenders as was anticipated at least till Tuesday, April the 9th. They will look for a new buyer. Are you now on board? Do you now agree that maybe this is a good strategy that the lenders are following? Why burn more money when you don't know if you're ever going to recover the old money?
Nayantara, yeah, thank you very much. I think this is a problem that nobody anticipated, right? I mean, you were talking early about video programming not working on jet aircraft, on international flights. There are other problems too. You know, Jet Airways has a lot of interconnect arrangements. You know, it is a partner with SkyTeam, with Delta, Air France and KLM. These airlines sell Jet Airways tickets on code-shared flights. And every time you cancel a scheduled Jet Airways flight, these other carriers have to scramble to find seats for passengers that are stuck at airports. So this is, in very many ways, this is a global problem. It is not just Etihad. there are problems with other airlines as well. 3 days is much too short for any due diligence to happen unless there is a suitor already on board. But I keep going back to what I said to you last time, and that is that everybody needs to share in the pain. Not just the lenders, not just employees. Everybody, vendors, everybody has to sit at, as I said, a bankruptcy tribunal proceeding, and everybody has to deal with this problem, take a big haircut, and hopefully recover, and hopefully pray that Jet Airways recovers, if not to its original laurels, at least to a shade of what it was, so that they can recover their profits going forward.
Okay. VG Kannan, I'm going to come back to you now. I said we've got you here to represent the banks. You just heard what Raj Kamal Rao has also had to say. But do you think the banks have also maybe, the decision that they've made today could come back to haunt them? They stand to right now looking to convert debt to equity, make some kind of a recovery. Tomorrow, if there is no bid that is received, supposing, hypothetically, then what? With what face are they supposed to put more money into this airline? After the SBI chairperson outside Finance Ministry has said you cannot take this particular account to the NCLT. There are far too many third-party interests. It's service. There'll be no absolute recovery. You can't invoke insolvency in bankruptcy court. So do you think that this decision for such a quick expression of interest being issued, a quick stake sale that is being attempted, was supposed to happen by 31st of May, now you're talking about till by 9th of April, could come back to haunt all of these banks?
Let me take you back about 10-15 days ago, when it was decided that they'd do the conversion and invest the money and invite the people for this. I think if that had happened maybe a week ago, and the number of aircraft which is grounded in the last 10 days would have also been reduced, and the turnaround will happen, and they'll be in a position to continue it, and the cash flows would have come. And as the other panel members also mentioned, cash flows and the passenger traffic has to continue. Otherwise, that will also become a cyclical problem where they will not be in a position to come out. This is an area where the banks have now to take a call as to whether they have to put in more money now or wait for some person to actually show interest. Once they show interest and have some sort of a preliminary indication that yes, they're coming on board, then they can take a call. Earlier, they were under the impression that they will be in a position to do the conversion, which didn't take place for obvious reasons, including possibly the Supreme Court verdict yesterday. And therefore, they have actually preponed or advanced the timings for getting the expression of interest. Once they get a clear expression of interest from 2 or 3 well-known players, I think they may actually move much faster. And if the data room is available for them to see how they can do the turnaround, it may not be long, because it is not a new
but
setup.
Mohit, let me. Okay, Mohit, I'm going to invite you back into the conversation now. You've heard what VG Kannan has had to say about this as well from a banker's perspective. I want to ask you the same question. Could this decision come back to haunt the banks if they find no interested party till April 9th? Then what's supposed to happen? You're talking about India's oldest private airline. It used to have a fleet of 119 planes till December 2018. No roadshow. Where is the time to invite bidders? Where is the time to even talk about could turn out to be a good asset? The underlying asset is a good one. Typically things that happen before a large transaction. Once again, does that lead credence to the theory there is already a buyer? Then having said that, can this not come back to haunt the bankers later to say that why was there no transparency? Why didn't you allow others to participate? Why didn't you go on a roadshow? Could such accusations be leveled at a later stage?
Nayantara, you must realize what are the contours of this transaction. The contours of the transaction was the lender would convert his equity debt, 1 rupee debt, into 50% equity. It will get control of the management. Mr. and Mrs. Goyal will resign. They will have a management committee. That was the contours of the transaction. That contours got blessed under February 12th circular. Today, as of today, there is no circular. Now, RBI governor today said that we will come up with a circular. So, if today there is no circular, today RBI cannot convert 1 rupee of debt into 50% equity. Banks cannot convert. They cannot effectively hand over management. Now, the RBI has to come up with a circular. It can come by 6th or it can come by 9th. If you actually get a circular there, then there is a deal. And that circular can also get challenged. So today, if you actually see today what the banks are doing, I'm sympathetic to them because our Supreme Court actually has thrown this deal away. There's a very big challenge on this deal because of the regulatory issue. So today, why this 3-day period has been brought in? Because they are all expecting RBI to come up with a circular to bless the transaction structure. The transaction structure is not viable today, and that is a challenge. And that's the reason probably they're doing this short period. They probably need to get a circular there. All these things have to be done so that the deal is a viable deal. That's the reason I think everybody understands 3 days you can't sell the deal. But maybe they're buying this time and they don't want, today they can't put money. They put money and there is no circular, they've lost the money. So I think the deal has to be viable. And that's the reason banks are asking for time. And it's a very, I think the Supreme Court has also said that if there is something which was done solely under 12th February circular, then it's null and void. And that's a challenge. This was solely all communication with Jet Airways wrote to stock exchange.
We've got our viewers a full perspective. The banker on the show, VG Kannan from the IBA, still trying to wrap his head around it, that what's going on. The banks have to do what they have to do. You've got Mohit Saraf saying that it's because of the Supreme Court order striking down Feb 12. The bankers have no issue but to try and make this deal viable. Raj Kamal Rao, who believes that it's nobody else's business but Jet Airways business, and Jitendra Bhargav, who is convinced that Etihad Airways is waiting in the wings, or at least a Middle Eastern airline, and that is why this expression of interest is being invited on a Saturday, which is a Monday in the Gulf. Unfortunately, I'm out of time. I know we would have liked to debate this more. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us on this edition of India Development Debate. And viewers, we'll be back same time tomorrow. Many thanks for tuning in.